Arthur Morgan and Mary Linton have one of the most ardent, complex, and mature relationships in media, being simultaneously endearing and heartbreaking, portraying the passion of a first love. While Mary is not Arthur's only romantic involvement, it can be said that she was his first and only one true love. The two met at a very young age in the early days of Arthur running in the Van der Linde gang. They were smitten with one another, but the relationship ultimately ceased due to Arthur's predominant involvement in the Van der Linde gang, as well as prevalent disapproval from Mary's family, particularly her father. After the two went their separate ways, Mary eventually married a man named Barry Linton, and donned the surname. Barry later passed away, widowing Mary. Her brother Jamie joined the Chelonia cult, and her father became increasingly more withdrawn from the family. He grew to be verbally abusive to his children, and developed an alcohol dependency, gambled, purchased sexual workers, and began pawning off the family's property. In the second chapter of the game, Horseshoe Overlook, Mary contacts Arthur by letter, asking to see him. The letter is read in Mary's voice, as if it's in Arthur's head. This insinuates that Arthur remembers her voice well, perhaps even fondly. We can tell Mary's care for Arthur by the nature and tone of the letter itself. It perfectly lends itself to a letter written from a past lover who still has strong yet complex feelings for the other person. The letter reads, "I've written this letter 100 times or more, and I cannot get it right." This shows Mary's apprehension and nerves, along with the myriad of romantic insecurities that comes with contacting Arthur for the first time in so long. She goes on to say, "You know it's me from the bad handwriting," a fact only two very close individuals would know about each other, which is indicative of their relationship. This also insinuates that perhaps they used to exchange letters frequently in the past. She continues, "I know I said when we last spoke and I was going off to get married that we would not speak again. I know I said a lot of things and I meant them, I suppose, at the time, but I am not so proud as to not speak to the people who care for me or cared for me." I like the fact that this line shows some of Mary's willingness to reach out to Arthur. We see her say, "I know I said a lot of things," which airs to a tone of regret, but also understanding. This is reinforced by her saying she does not necessarily mean those things anymore, but she wouldn't deny that they happened. She ends with expressing appreciation for all Arthur's care, and by acknowledging that he cared for her. She informs him that she is renting a room in Valentine, and would love to see him again. When Arthur arrives, provided you decide to do the quest, he is visibly nervous. However, it's subtle, in a way that shows his attempt to mask it. Mary enters the door and acts surprised to see Arthur. From there, they exchange awkward small talk. Mary asks for his help in convincing Jamie to leave the Chelonians. Arthur is initially apprehensive and somewhat frustrated in regard to the poor relationship with Mary's family. Arthur shows care for Jamie, who was the only one of the family kind to him in the past. This brotherly care for Jamie is an extension of his care for Mary. Once Arthur saves Jamie from the Chelonians, he takes him back to the station where Arthur insists on seeing Mary to her train. Mary struggles for words, obviously wanting to say something to Arthur.
"Oh, you'll never change. I know that."
She speaks and boards the train. We can only assume from this that she is regretful and felt a fleeting hope that she and Arthur had a chance to rekindle their relationship. He expresses the feelings he still has for Mary, of which only one in love uniquely experiences.
"I feel like the luckiest man alive, and I feel like a fool. That woman confuses me and plays me for a fiddle like no one else alive. I trust I will not make a god-awful fool of myself once more, but somehow I imagine I shall."
He feels both elated and foolish for how Mary can manipulate him, and is resigned to the fact that he would not be able to refuse her. He also writes his initials and Mary's in his journal with a heart between them. In the Saint Denis chapter, Arthur receives yet another letter from Mary, once again asking for his help. She thanks him again profusely for his help, with Jamie. She expresses some of the frustration we saw at the train stop. "Oh, Arthur, I've made such a mess of my life, time and time again. Why could I not change and be the woman I want to be? Why couldn't you change and be a man who could put down all those fantasies that cloud your judgment?" Mary desperately wishes things could be different and desperately wants to be with Arthur, yet she feels hopeless. "I know it is wrong to ask you, but I have nobody else, and for what we once had together, I beg of you, even though I am ashamed to do so." Aware of her cynicism, she adds, "for what we once had together," mentioning it fondly. When Arthur comes, Mary is overjoyed, and Arthur sweetly and genuinely adds, "Whenever you call for me, I come."
Yo, whenever you call for me, I'll come.
He shows genuine concern for that which is troubling Mary. When she mentions her father needs help, Arthur once again shows frustration and they argue over Arthur's choices. But he is unable to turn Mary down.
It wasn't that I didn't love you, Arthur. You know that.
This speaks to Mary's sadness regarding how their relationship dissolved. It was not due to a lack of love for one another, or lack of compatibility, but rather caused by something else coming between them, of which neither of them felt they had the power to control. They then pursue Mary's father due to her concern with his habits. They find him selling his mother's brooch, a family heirloom that was left to Mary. Arthur then goes after the buyer of the brooch and returns it to Mary. Mary then asks him if he would like to go to the theater with her. They walk through Saint Denis together and begin to reconnect and warm up to each other again. Throughout the date and the show, we are given a glimpse of their relationship. We're shown their wholesome, genuine enjoyment of spending time together. We see them joke and tease and flirt. We see every aspect of a happy relationship emerging from its loss to time. After the show, Arthur walks Mary to the trolley. As they reach their destination, Mary laments the deteriorating state of her life and asks if it is too late for her and Arthur. Arthur admits he does want to run away and be with her, but states he does not want Mary to get hurt. He has people in the gang to take care of, and that they need money. Arthur promises that his gang life is really coming to an end this time, and as soon as he can get some money, they can run away. For one last time, we are shown their desperation and desire to be together once again. But Mary recognizes that the time isn't right and may never be. In the final chapter of the game, Arthur receives one last letter from Mary, along with a ring. The tear-jerking letter explains her inexplicable feelings for Arthur, and her deciding that it's best for them to move on. "I miss you, and I will always miss you. But I cannot live like that, and it seems you cannot live any other way." Mary expresses her pain and accentuates a special place Arthur will always hold in her heart. But she realizes that it is impossible for them to be together. "When I am with you, the world makes sense, but when we are apart, I see clearly that your world is not a world from which one can easily escape." Mary once again recognizes Arthur's predicament, and explains that she truly feels that when she is with Arthur, she finds her other half, and shows how much she appreciates and desires it. She then mentions the ring. "I enclose a ring you gave me many years ago, when we were both young, not because I don't like it, but because I care for it far too much and it reminds me too much of you. I hope one day you will find some people in love who can use this." Mary feels the pain of the end of her relationship with Arthur through this ring. With the end of a relationship comes the end of memories made with a person. Mary feels memories of her past and current love for Arthur in the ring, and by letting it go, we see her moving past the solemn reminders of her time with Arthur. We also know that John goes on to propose to Abigail with this ring, fulfilling Mary's wish.
There's a good man within you, Arthur, but he is wrestling with a giant. And the giant wins time and again. You've broken my heart again, and I fear I have broken yours. And for that, I will never forgive myself.
Not so easily does a story tell such an intimate and concise story in such a well-formulated sequence of interactions to build the player's investment and interest in the relationship, while prodding with highly relatable tones. When watching Arthur and Mary together, I can't help stopping to watch them in the theater or putting down my controller to listen to Mary read her letter. Two people deeply in love being pulled apart by an outside force of which neither side wants. Arthur Morgan is not a character known to share his emotions and makes a conscious effort to mask his feelings. Yet with Mary, he struggles intensely with this. I love Mary and Arthur's dialogue and manner of speaking as well. We see them both trying their best to portray their complex feelings for one another. Everything about Arthur and Mary's relationship is a heartbreaking experience. We see and experience their love firsthand. I find that I desperately want them to rekindle their connection after seeing how happy they are together. Arthur trying to look presentable for Mary, Arthur joking with Mary, Mary's well-formulated letters, their openness about their feelings, their frustration. Everything makes the end of Arthur and Mary's relationship heartbreaking.
The day is done, the time's come. You battled hard, the war is won. You did your worst, you tried your best. Now it's time to rest. Now it's time to rest. Mm-hmm.